Tomorrow's Paper Today by Paul Llewellyn. Narrated by George Gibb. His head in his hands, the slip hits the deck. He thought it had won, but it lost by a neck. In those final few yards, his heart felt the crush, but the higher the stake, the bigger the rush. Sam was a loner, didn't follow the crowd. A few quid in his pocket, the call of the bookie was loud. When he won, he felt like a man amongst men, but now shame and self-loathing consumed him again. Home to his mother he'd trudge, dragging his heart through the snow. Just a glance at his face and then she would know. That desperate expression that told her he'd lost. A familiar sight as often she'd borne the cost. Anger and tears welled up in her eyes, despair and fury she could no longer disguise. "I know where you've been, Sam, I can't take it no more." Her heart was breaking as she showed him the door. "Some men came to work, said you had cash to repay. They made me give them my rings before they'd go away. I came so close, Mum, to winning my bet. If I'd have won, I would have paid off the debt. You'll never learn, no matter how loud I shout." And calmly she said, "I want you out." His apologies fell with his tears to the ground. As he stood in the doorway, she wouldn't look round. To stick to her guns took all of her might. So off Sammy went into a cold winter's night. With nowhere to go and this sentence to serve to himself, he whispered, "This is what you deserve." He pictured his mother, shaking with fear, handing over her rings that she held so dear. Rings from his father, the love of her life. Cancer had turned her to widow from wife. Through streets he meandered. This was the lowest he'd felt. To numb the pain and the cold, the stolen vodka would help. He ended up in the bandstand down at the park, where lost souls from town would meet after dark. Somewhere dry for the addicts to sit with blank stares, where nobody judges and nobody cares. Sam slugged from the bottle, ignoring the taste, and soon oblivion was gladly embraced. That's where he slept on that cold, bitter night, an empty bottle of vodka laid at his side. An hour 'fore dawn a strange thing occurred. Sammy was woken by whispered words. His eyes strained in the darkness. A little man was stood there, unblinking eyes red as crimson, fixed him with a stare. Beneath the brim of a hat they'd not look away, like a snake deathly still as it studies its prey. His voice sickly sweet, almost kind as he spoke. In a daze Sam looked up, confused as he woke. "What will you offer if I ease your pain? You'll never know suffering like this again. To make you the man your mother wants you to be, to make her proud of her boy. Just trust me, you'll see. This life that you're living, you can leave it behind, but once you've decided, you can't change your mind. Give me your torment, I'll take it to hell. What reward will you give me, young Samuel, pray tell?" "Who are you?" asked Sam. "How do you know my name?" "That's of no importance. Will you play this game?" Sam had nothing to offer, even the desire to live. "I'm sorry to tell you I've got nothing to give." "So consider your plight. It might help you choose. If you've nothing to give, then you've nothing to lose. What I seek, my boy, has no material wealth," the man declared with a sinister stealth. "I'll give you the chance to take back control. All I ask in return is you give me your soul." "I'll make you this trade. What do I get in return?" The man smiled and then whispered, "A lesson you'll learn. I'll give you a chance to save your life, a better future for your mother instead of this strife. But use this gift wisely is all I can say. What you'll get when you wake is tomorrow's paper today." Now that it's done, your soul's mine to keep. Here, take this £1. Now go back to sleep." The last thing Sam felt as the dark closed back in, that he'd just placed a bet that he'd never win. When Sammy awoke, he was there all alone. A night in that bandstand left him chilled to the bone, and as he got to his feet he heard an odd sound. Something fell from his coat and on to the ground, and there, neatly folded, was the Daily Post. Sammy stiffened in shock as if touched by a ghost. He remembered the man with the staring red eyes. It wasn't a dream, this was Sammy's prize. He remembered the trade, his soul given away, but was this really tomorrow's paper today? He picked up the paper and scanned for the date. In the top right he found it, Jan 28. Sam looked at his watch, the date, then watch again. The little number in the window declared 27. He couldn't believe it, but here was the proof. That strange little man must have spoken the truth. It didn't take long for Sammy to realize what this meant. If the paper was real, what a gift he'd been sent. Inside, the back page would list the horses that won, but they'd be for today, and so hadn't yet run. He opened the page, now immune to the cold. The results were there, with the winners in bold. Sam couldn't be certain if what he read was true. He thought for a moment, then he knew what to do. With the bookies still closed, the time hadn't yet come. First he'd go home and try to make up with Mum. The door opened slowly, Mum's face etched with fright. Her pink bloodshot eyes betrayed a long, sleepless night. Her boy stood there shivering in the cold winter wind. The guilt overwhelmed her and she beckoned him in. He said, "Mum, I'm sorry." She said, "I'm sorry too." She said that she loved him and didn't know what to do. A warm bath, change of clothes, and a hot cup of tea. Ashamed, he looked at her finger where her rings used to be. He didn't show her the paper or speak of the night. He just took her hand and said, "I will make this right." So off Sammy went, paper inside his coat, the £1 coin in his pocket and a lump in his throat. Could this be the day when he set himself free to escape the addiction, be the man he should be? He entered the shop, the place he knew well, where joy and despair is all that they sell. He crossed to the wall. Race cards hung there unfurled, like curtains hiding a window to an exciting new world. He took out his paper after a quick look around, checked the names of the winners, and on the wall they were found. Obscure names of 6 horses hiding there on 6 lists. For Sam, a confirmation. Another doubt was dismissed. His hands started to tremble as belief won the fight. He picked up a slip and started to write. Good odds on 6 horses was all that he'd need. $500,000 he'd win if they all should succeed. Placing the slip on the counter as meek as a child. £1 accumulator. The cashier smiled. She processed the bet, gave a copy to Sam. The deed had been done, his fate there in his palm. He couldn't stay in the bookies because if they started to win, he didn't think he'd stay calm as the horses came in. So home to his bedroom he went, a familiar place. He switched on the radio just before the first race. The race began. Sammy laid there, fearing the worst. His heart rate was soaring as his horse comes in first. And so it went as the next 4 came in. Just 1 more left. 500,000 he'd win. Soul Collector was the name of horse number 6, the irony unnoticed as he awaited his fix. He considered the future filled with wonderful things. The first task he'd complete would be to get back Mum's rings.
"And they're off!"
came the call. The moment was here. Sam's mind boiled with excitement, elation and fear, a mix of emotions upon which gamblers thrive. It's at moments like this they feel truly alive. the stomach-churning despair when it's all on the line, the intoxication when they land on cloud nine. The commentator continued,
They're approaching the last. Here's Soul Collector. He's closing in fast.
Sam sat stunned into silence.
Soul Collector wins!
£1 to $500,000. The bet had come in. He bounded downstairs, 3 steps into one, hugging Mum tightly, said, I've done it! I've won! What do you mean, son? He said, Let me explain. 500,000, Mum, you're never working again. He showed her the slip and said, This is my last bet. Mum, take my picture, in case I ever forget. The newspaper in his jacket and the slip in his hand, Sam headed out whispering, 500 grand. Possibilities raged, what he could do with the cash, his mind in a daze and his judgment was rash. In a state of euphoria, he walked down the street, barely feeling the ground passing under his feet. All he saw as he crossed was the bookie's front door. The car, when it hit him, was doing 40 or more. Sam flew through the air without making a sound, a sickening thud as he hit the ground. His spine had been broken, but he wasn't yet dead, his head on its side, as heavy as lead. And there, just beside him, all that he sees, his paper, its pages unfold in the breeze. A gust lifted a page, until now concealed. The picture his mum had just taken was somehow revealed. The headline told of a local who'd won a huge bet and was killed on the street as he went to collect. In that moment, he realized he'd been given a choice. Then came the whisper of a familiar voice. The little man crouched beside him, his words now remote. Gathering up the paper, put it inside his coat. I gave you the chance, but you didn't choose well. Now your soul is mine, and it's coming to hell. The last thing Sam heard, as inside he bled. Come now, my boy, my master needs to be fed.